Hello, I'm Jenna and I'm here today to show you how to use mixed media art journaling as part of your prayer and worship. If you're new here, do hit that subscribe button and I hope you enjoy this video. I thought we would talk today about anger. I was feeling quite angry when I started this journal page, to be honest with you folks. Not angry at someone in particular, just a kind of more general anger at the world and my circumstances, and I was just in a big old grump. So I'd started with writing out my feelings in my journal. It's something that I often do to start a page, and that's what all that scribbly writing is on the page, me doing a big feelings dump onto the page. And I'm now just adding a bit of acrylic paint, I think this colour's called parchment, and spreading it around with a card to obscure some of that writing, because I don't want anyone to read it, and I don't particularly want to read it again either. So anger is a bit of a taboo emotion, I feel, in Christian circles, certainly. And is it okay to be angry? And what do we do if we are angry? Well, after making this page, I ended up doing a bit of a Bible study around anger in the Bible, and there are so many facets to it. It certainly seems like we shouldn't harbour anger for other people. That's a whole topic of forgiveness, which I'm not really going to go into today. We also shouldn't let our anger burst out in angry outbursts, also talked about in the Bible as not a good thing. However, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't feel anger, and that the emotion of anger in itself is forbidden. In fact, it says a couple of times in the Bible, I found, surprisingly, to be angry. It says, be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. That's in Ephesians 4. And I think that's actually quoting another verse in Psalm 4, verse 4. Be angry and do not sin. Ponder in your own hearts on your beds and be silent. Wow, I had not read this verse before. And I think this really sums up my response to being angry in terms of responding with some thoughtfulness, not dumping your anger on the nearest person or kicking the cat, or I don't have a cat, and not that I would kick one if I did have one, but do you know what I mean? Not taking your anger out on, I do have a husband, on someone else, but pondering your own heart on your beds in private. I do a lot of my journaling on my bed, certainly my written journaling that you see on the page started with just me under my covers with a pen writing it all out. So I added a bit of water to the words, and because some of them were done with water-soluble pens and pencils, they have turned into a kind of dirty wash on the page, and now I'm adding some ink. And the ink that I'm using, actually I have a bit of a history with. It is not actually very nice stuff. It is incredibly permanent. When I get it on my fingers, it is there for days, and it has stained our table, and I don't know why I haven't thrown it away, to be honest with you, but I think I grabbed it out of some kind of angry, living dangerously kind of feeling. And that can happen sometimes, can't it, when we're angry, that we can make decisions that are quite reckless and even self-destructive, that anger almost turns against ourselves, and that is not a good thing. It's it's something that we can explore in our journals, but it's not something that we really want to materialize in terms of really hurting ourselves. And you may have noticed I am adding this ink with a knife, a plastic knife, which probably goes with this theme of anger. But in all seriousness, if you want to express your anger on the page rather than taking it out on another human, then that's okay. Think about the kind of tools that would help you do that. If that involves using like a pointy tool and scraping, I start scraping at the page now with the knife, or a stick, or whatever feels good really, and whatever kind of marks feel good. I'm going quite gently here, but I have in the past made quite sort of violent marks on the page just to get that anger out and into my journal, which is a safe place to do that. So that is really what that Bible verse seems to be saying to me when it says, "Be angry and do not sin. Ponder in your own hearts on your beds and be silent." It's really speaking to the fact that anger has to go somewhere. It's either going to be directed outwards, towards someone or something else, often our nearest and dearest, isn't it, if we're honest with ourselves, even if it's not their fault at all. Or it goes inwards and we have destructive behaviour towards ourselves. And to avoid either of those things, we need to put it somewhere. We can't just ignore it. We have to express it and ponder it in a safe way, in a safe place. And my journal is that safe place. It's a safe place with God as well. God is always a safe place. We might think we can't come before God when we're angry, but read some of the Psalms. We totally can. And he's not frightened by our anger. We need to process it. We need to deal with it so we can move on. So now I am adding some collage, these scraps of purple paper, painted papers, and I've made them into quite jaggedy, sharp shapes, not really something I usually do. And the background with the ink, I was kind of drawing branches and tree shapes in my mind, but now I'm adding these jagged pieces of collage. Really, it's speaking to me of a broken window pane, something that's shattered into small, sharp pieces. Anger often comes from some kind of place of brokenness. So someone said to me once that anger is not really a real emotion. I mean, obviously it's a real emotion. It feels very real. And if you're feeling angry, I'm not invalidating that in any way, but it is a sign. It's a secondary emotion. It is a sign of other emotions going on underneath. So maybe one of the things that we are to ponder in our own hearts is what are those other emotions that anger is kind of masking? And we can ask God that. We can say, Lord, what is this anger really trying to tell me? What is really going on here, Lord? And there might be any number of answers to that question. I felt that God showed me in this instance 2 other secondary emotions that were going on. And that was loss, so grief, and also fear. And I found these 2 images. This is of a little child looking very sweet and vulnerable, pointing at something on the floor. And this for me represented the fear and vulnerability side of things. And then I also found another image of these dead seed heads in a vase, which is very beautiful, but represented to me the loss and the grief side of things. And sometimes when I'm not sure what I'm feeling, I don't have the right word to describe the feeling that I'm feeling, looking through a magazine or your stash of images and pulling out things that jump out at you, that you feel like you're responding to emotionally, can really help, or it helps me when I don't have the words. I can sometimes find an image that represents how I'm feeling better than trying to find a word sometimes. So you might want to try that. So I'm just going to stick these images on the page. I've got a few other bits of collage to frame them. And then I just add a bit of gesso. I think I use my fingers to do that, just to blend the images into the page a little bit more. So I think that journaling, art journaling in particular, using marks and images and play is a great way for us to ponder our anger, to express it, to work it through, to get to the bottom of it, and ultimately to bring it to God and receive healing from Him. And because of my lovely little vintage photograph of the little child, I decided to add the words, "Come to me like a little child," which is what God tells us to do. And children have no problem expressing their anger, do they? That's certainly my experience with my kids anyway. And I think they get over it a lot quicker because they express it as well. They don't hold on to anger like adults do. They let it all out and then they move on. So if we can do that to our daddy in heaven, then maybe we can start to move on a bit too. Don't get me wrong, I know that some of you have been through terrible trauma, and it's not as simple as making a journal page or praying a prayer, but I hope this is helpful, that it could be a useful tool to go to start to begin to work things through. So that's my page. That's all from me today, folks. I hope you're all doing well. Do hit that like button, leave me a comment if this was interesting, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you soon.